Good to have you with us. I'm Daniel Che, here to provide you with the latest. Our top story at this hour: prosecutors here in Korea plan to question President Park Geun-hye sometime this week. They are waiting for the top office to respond to their request while continuing the probe into the ongoing political scandal, with a number of business tycoons summoned over the weekend. Shin Se-min keeps us up to speed with the investigations.
Prosecutors plan to question President Park Geun-hye early this week. The Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office said Sunday that it has made a request to the presidential office of Cheongwade to question the president as a witness in the ongoing political scandal involving President herself and her close confidant, Choi Soon-sil. Responding to the request, the presidential office said it will need some time, at least until Tuesday, to review some of the details, like rearranging the president's schedule and appointing a lawyer. No details on exactly where or how the interview would take place, but the prosecution is sticking to the principle of a face-to-face meeting. If realized, it would be the first time in Korean history for prosecutors to question a sitting president. As the investigation expands, prosecutors have summoned business tycoons over their suspicious donations to two foundations, Mir and K Sports, linked to President Park Geun-hye's confidant, Choi Soon-sil. Samsung Group's heir apparent Lee Jae-yong, LG Group Chairman Koo Bon-moo, and Hanjin Group Chairman Cho Yang-ho were summoned by prosecutors for questioning on Sunday afternoon. Those business leaders are being questioned over their separate one-on-one meetings with President Park that took place in July last year, meetings that are believed to have led to them donating to the foundations controlled by Choi. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The Korean people held a massive demonstration in downtown Seoul to voice their anger over a series of shocking scandals on Saturday, with some marching to the vicinity of Cheongwade calling for President Park Geun-hye to take action. Since then, Park and her staff have been discussing what to do next to calm public sentiment and carry on state affairs with as much stability as possible. Song Ji-sun zooms in on how the top office is scrambling to change its ways.
The voices of up to a million people were loud enough for the president to hear from the top office as she contemplates ways to soothe public anger. Meeting with reporters after the massive protest, the president's spokesperson said the president heard the voice of the people at Saturday's protest and takes very seriously the gravity of the current situation. He added that the president is also deliberating over ways to fulfill her responsibilities as president and to normalize state affairs. Most of the president's staff stayed alert overnight during Saturday's protest, as protesters in the vicinity of the presidential office clashed with police trying to break up the crowd. The court for the first time allowed protesters, on the basis of freedom of assembly, to march the boulevard closest to Blue House. Park has given two public apologies, the first amid the initial outrage over the Choi Soon-sil scandal, and the second one 10 days later. Monday marks the third week since her first public apology, with massive protests taking over the nation each of the past 3 weekends. The presidential office said that Park is considering all possible measures to counter the crisis, and efforts continue to meet and speak with opposition parties as they refuse to propose a prime minister nominee to whom the president has vowed to transfer most of her governing power. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the ruling Saenuri party's leader announced he would resign as soon as the parliament recommends the new prime minister and a neutral cabinet is launched. The opposition front also held emergency meetings on Sundays to deal with the aftermath of the massive rally demanding President Park's resignation. Kim Young-gil has the response from the National Assembly.
The ruling Saenuri Party's chief Lee Jung-hyun said Sunday that the party will hold a national convention in January to pick its new leader and promise to step down once the administration stabilizes.
I will immediately resign once rival parties pick the new prime minister and when a bipartisan cabinet is formed.
However, the non-pro-Park faction rejected the chair's decision and called on the party leadership to immediately resign. They also issued a statement saying they would forge ahead to dissolve the party and recommended a public vote on whether President Park Geun-hye should stay in office. Saenuri's former chief and potential presidential candidate Kim Moo-sung went so far as to say that President Park should face impeachment. Meanwhile, the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea said the president must now listen to the people, and the only solution is for President Park to step down. The party also called for establishing a parliamentary committee to deal with the current political emergency and to outline a roadmap to a peaceful and safe resignation of the president. The minor opposition People's Party lambasted the ruling Saenuri party for trying to cover up the ongoing Choi Soon-sil scandal and for trying to help those who were involved in the alleged corruption. The left-wing Justice Party said Parliament should prepare a motion to impeach President Park and called on the opposition bloc to hold a meeting soon to discuss the matter. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
In other stories, Korea's trade ministry is all ears as it prepares for a potential shift to U.S. trade policy under the administration of new President-elect Donald Trump. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy is putting together a joint council comprised of government officials and private groups to devise ways to counter any fallout from changing policies in Washington and boost bilateral cooperation. The council will also set up communication channels with the U.S. government, Congress, and individual businesses. The ministry added that a working-level task force under the council will closely monitor the economic situation and help local exporters overcome any difficulties they may face. Over in the United States, anti-Trump protests have went on for the fourth straight day at numerous cities, including LA, New York, and Portland. Police reportedly apprehended more than 200 people since Wednesday, a nation divided in terms of accepting the results of their presidential election. Kim Jong-soo takes a closer look.
Since his election on November 8th, President-elect Donald Trump has announced some adjustments to some of his more controversial policies, such as the repeal of Obamacare, building a wall along the Mexican border, as well as banning Muslims from entering the country. He's also promised to make sure his future cabinet reflects the voice of the country. But it appears that's not enough for some Americans who have yet to accept the results of the election, as anti-Trump protests continued well into the weekend. According to the New York Times, protests have erupted in 37 cities since Wednesday, with a few rallies even resulting in violent confrontations with the police. And according to the Associated Press, as of Saturday, law enforcement across the nation have arrested 225 people, including 185 in Los Angeles and 25 in Portland. 8,000 people took to the streets of LA on Saturday local time to voice their opposition to President-elect Trump, according to the LA Times.
But what I think a protest like this can do is send a message to others in the country who are upset with this new president and also internationally that Americans don't support his racist, sexist agenda.
I'm an immigrant. I've come to this country from South Africa. I've seen what a police state does. I've seen people oppressed, and this is like a heartbreak of the American dream for me.
In New York City, a crowd of at least 2,000 people marched along Fifth Avenue, stopping just short of Trump Tower, according to NBC News. Renowned left-wing documentary filmmaker Michael Moore, who was among the crowd, attempted to secure a surprise meeting with the president-elect, but was stopped by security personnel. Meanwhile, in Portland, Oregon, an anti-Trump rally that began Friday night turned violent early Saturday morning, according to the Washington Post. One protester was subdued by a gunshot to his leg, and 4 people were arrested. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, New Zealand was rattled on Sunday by a magnitude 7.4 earthquake, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. That is, the natural disaster struck 91 kilometers northeast of Christchurch on the South Island. New Zealand's civil defense has issued a tsunami warning, calling on the people in the region to move to higher ground. And USGS initially reported it was a magnitude 7.8 quake, but the New Zealand civil defense put the strength at much lower than that, with a series of aftershocks. The Geological Hazard Monitor GeoNet said the tsunami is at least 2 meters high and that the initial wave may not be the highest, as the tsunami has hit the northeast coast of New Zealand following the quake. And it's been reported that some buildings has been damaged, but no injuries so far. New Zealand sits on the so-called Ring of Fire, and Christchurch experienced a powerful tremor back in 2011 that killed at least 185 people. Coming back to South Korea, amid ongoing nuclear and missile threats from North Korea, Seoul and Washington held another joint drill. This combined exercise is designed to help execute tactics to stealthily deploy ground troops in key facilities using choppers. Kim Mo-kyun reports.
The South Korean Army's Special Warfare Command and its U.S. counterparts have their troops assemble in formation for the infiltration drill. A big part of the exercise are 5 Black Hawk helicopters. In less than 5 minutes, each helicopter carries 11 SOP personnel and fly off to their destination. Not to be outdone is the Boeing CH-47 Chinook tandem rotor helicopter that can carry up to 30 soldiers. The choppers arrive at the set location and the operation begins for some 250 troops at the site. Air assault operations using helicopters to swiftly dispatch troops to enemy's territory play a key role in turning the tide of a battle as it can neutralize an enemy's defenses.
Through this exercise, we not only improve combined exercise capabilities, coordination between ground and air reinforcements can be greatly upgraded as well. In the most critical time of a battle, we will execute our plan flawlessly and guarantee victory.
This may be just the beginning of such joint operations, as the Special Warfare Command has many more strategies aimed at taking out command units of the reclusive regime, and it may also push for the formation of a special air assault operation unit dedicated to such tasks. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is working to improve the country's air quality through a cutting-edge research and development project. Korea's Environment, ICT, and Health ministries have agreed to inject over $36 million for 3 years, starting in 2017, into a project to study and remedy the causes of high levels of microscopic dust. The government will work to secure background information and discover the root cause in order to develop the necessary technology. It'll also expand all national R&D capability devoted to solving the problem. To deal more systematically with the issue, the program will also help accurately measure the level of fine dust that from time to time hang over the peninsula. That concludes our newscast for this hour. As always, thank you for watching.